Welcome back to our channel. Today we're looking at 3M's voluntary phase-out of PFAS chemicals and how it relates to the EPA. In 2022, 3M announced that they are discontinuing all Novec fluids by the end of 2025 as part of their voluntary phase-out of PFAS chemicals. And now let's join Mike Bangasser, President of Best Technology, in the webinar Understanding 3M Product Discontinuation.
I think there's something really interesting to discuss about the definition of PFAS. And the reason that I want to even go into PFAS at all is because 3M calls their phase out, voluntary phase out from PFAS chemicals. But the EPA actually has no official definition on the characteristics that define a PFAS for its use, which seems kind of odd when without an official definition, there's over 10,000 chemicals that are grouped as a PFAS. How do you delineate between the really bad ones, somewhat bad ones, and ones that have no environmental or health impact at all? And you have the data to prove the differences between them. So there's three basically parameters that would chemically show if the particular molecule that you're looking at would be defined as a PFAS. While this is helpful, it's still vague and leaves a lot for interpretation because it doesn't get down to the science really of things in the detail that people are looking for on the severity of health risk, environmental risk, etc. So this leaves a lot of the general public scratching their heads and again lumping 10,000 chemicals together and calling them all bad. There's no separation between the fluorinated molecules that are known as long chain versus short chain, or previous generation versus newer generation of these fluorinated solvents, and more importantly, fluorinated polymers. If you have a polymer, it makes a lot more sense that this could be a forever chemical in itself because it's actually a solid and not a liquid that could evaporate. So a lot of science has shown distinctive differences in material composition and how they may remain persistent in the environment. But as people are calling PFAS forever chemicals, if a chemical has an atmospheric lifespan, a short lifespan, it truly isn't forever. So it's important to understand its atmospheric life, but without a definition, it's hard to get that science into words for the general public to be able to digest. So what really needs to happen is we need the EPA to advise on how to classify these 10,000 chemicals and have a formal definition that individual states can follow that guidance for their legislation. The other major thing that needs to happen is scientific innovation. It poses a tremendous opportunity for other companies to develop all other molecules to come in as safe alternatives to these molecules in the long run. So in the meantime, the economy's got to function. There is applications that have no alternatives, and it really leaves these manufacturing processes without any options. Sure, everyone wants a phone in their pocket. If we had some delineation in these 10,000 different chemicals, it would be pretty obvious which ones need to stay in production and which ones would actually have alternatives out there that could be looked at.
Thanks, Mike, for those insights into 3M's voluntary phase-out of PFAS chemicals. For the latest news on the 3M Novec phase-out, visit the Best Technology website. Contact an applications expert at Best Technology to learn how you can start your transition to a 3M Novec replacement today.